Deveronvale's assistant manager, Richard Davidson. He's the latest person to take on the Fantasy Fives, naming his best five-a-side teams with players he's played with and against. Obviously had a good career in the Highland League, Richard, with the likes of Inverurie, Buckie, Fairmartin. So we'll start with the team made up of guys you played with. Run us through those five.
No problem. Very difficult. Obviously, firstly, I didn't want to upset some of my ex-teammates and colleagues, but difficult to select a five-a-side. But the guys that I've selected that I played with, in goals would be Kevin Main. When I had a few years at Buckie with Kev, I thought he was excellent. Probably an underrated goalie in my mind. Went on to have a great career with Buckie and then latterly for Martin, and I think that move helped him kind of cement himself as one of the top goalkeepers in the league. Moved back to Buckie just to kind of swan song maybe of his career, but for me he was an outstanding goalie, and in a five-a-side you need a keeper that can play with his feet but also a great shot stopper, and Kev was definitely that. Defensive, this guy Bobby Mann would be my kind of number one. I played with Bobby for a couple of seasons at Fairmartin, and he's a guy that athletically wouldn't buzz about the park, but he was always one that seemed to have that 3 yards extra up a stair, you know. He pace wasn't his thing, but the ability and the kind of ease he made the game look was just phenomenal, and it was great to spend a couple of seasons with Bobby. Midfield, Tommy Wilson. Spent a good few years at Locos with Tommy. Probably one of the best players that I actually had the privilege of playing with. Could control a game, knew when to speed things up, knew when to kind of slow it down. But probably his biggest and best trait was he was just an out-and-out winner. Demanded so much for his teammates. And wanted to win at all costs. Could chip in with the odd goal, but I think his best trait was just keeping the ball. He would love nothing better than possession games. You would very rarely get the ball off him, but he could see a pass, and he just kept things simple basically. Next to Tommy would be another one for Martin would be Joe Hamill. He came in latterly with Stevie Patterson. Stayed down the road and unfortunately didn't train as much as we probably would have liked him to, but when he did train and when he played, he was different class. The touches, the kind of left foot to die for really. And these guys, they took for Martin to another level at that stage. And up front, the reason I've selected this guy is because I'd rather him in my team than against me would be Ian Murray. Right. I never actually played with him as a teammate, but we did in selects and for the Scotland select. So like I say, I would rather have Moby in my team than playing against us, because he was another one that born winner, born goal scorer, but he would have every trick in the book, whether it would be to win a penalty or whether it would be to kind of upset the opposition. But he was a class above as well, so that would be my five-a-side team of the guys that I've played with.
Well, quite a few legends in there and well-kent names, no doubt, Richard. But moving to the other side, out of the guys you've played against, who were the five that made the cut?
Well, this was a tricky one because obviously I'm no spring chicken anymore, so I can kind of go way back. And there's a few names in here, ex-professionals and kind of Highland League stalwarts, so it's a good mix really. Goalkeeper I went for is Ivor Perry when he was at Cove. I think it was maybe more to do with the fact that when I played Cove it was predominantly at Allen Park and it was quite a small pitch, and he just looked a monster in goals for Cove. But they were a top side at that time, and Locos and Cove had a big rivalry, and we always found it difficult to kind of get past him. So he would be the goalkeeper for the team that I played against. Defensive, another one that everybody probably loves to hate would be Russell McBride, but a top player, again underrated for his footballing ability, but he was an absolute monster on the park for Fraserburgh, and he was one of the main reasons that they probably turned into such a winning machine and a great success, because at the back he was a man mountain, and he allowed the guys in front of him to go and do their job, so he would be in there for sure. Midfield would be Richie Britton. I actually only managed to play against him for 45 minutes, but believe you me, that was more than enough. Locos played Ross County in a Scottish Cup game up in Dingwall, and I think there was maybe 5 or 6 postponements before the game got played on a Monday night. I managed to squeeze myself into the starting 11, but was hooked at half time because I just couldn't get near Richie Britton. And I openly admit that, and I've got no shame in telling people. I mean, he was excellent. I think we got beat 4-0 on the day, but I think it showed the gulf and class when you go up and test yourself against these guys. And he was a step above when we played Ross County that night. Another Highland League legend, if you like, in attacking in their 5-a-side team would be Mike McKenzie. I can't name a Vale legend being now associated with Deveronvale, but Mike, for the size of him, his skill and his touch and his ability was second to none. He could score all types of goals, free kicks, thunderbolts, tap-ins. He really was a class act, and one that kind of deserves to be in that team. And then their striker for the team that I played against would be Owen Coyle. We were able to play against Airdrie and Falkirk for Locos and Scottish Cup ventures, and even at the age of 35, 36, he was so sprightly, but I think he probably scored at least 3 or 4 times against Locos over the matches that he did play. But it was ability to kind of ghost in, and the left foot again was just class, and he was more than a poacher, but at that kind of period in time, he was just a kind of fox in the box, and he knew where the goal was, so he would be in that side.
Brilliant. And the key question to finish with, Richard, those two teams play one another, who wins?
That is a great question. On piece, I think it would be a relatively close game. However, I would like to say it's the guys that I've played with, more so just because of the ball retention and the ability to actually score goals. You've got Joe Hamill, you've got Bobby Mann that chipped in with goals, and you've got Moby, so I would hate to go for that 5, I think.